Welcome everyone to another edition of Making an Impact. I am your host, Simply Sensational Billy James. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. It is the Impact Wrestling Bell to Bell. We had 3 championship matches on the card. Also, the shock from the fallout from Slammiversary, King of the Mountain. We found out that a new title was being introduced into TNA, the King of the Mountain Championship. It is a revived belt, formerly known as the TNA Legends Championship, which later became the TNA Global Championship, and now, and its last incarnation, it was the TNA Television Championship. Anyway, we crowned a new King of the Mountain champion, the very first, and it is the King of the Mountain himself, Jeff Jarrett, who is not even with TNA. He is the founder of Global Force Wrestling. Also, we have the final match in the Best of 5 series: the Dirty Heels, Austin Aries, the greatest man that ever lived, and the It Factor of professional wrestling, Bobby Roode, the Dirty Heels, facing Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, the Wolves. And at Slammiversary, Austin Aries defeated Davey Richards. They earned the right to pick the final stipulation in the final match, which is going to be an amazing 30-minute Iron Man's match. So that's going to be terrific. Also, we got a triple threat match for the TNA Knockouts title. Terrell defending the TNA Knockouts title against Brooke and Awesome Kong. Also, we have EC3 finally gets his chance, his title shot against the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Kurt Angle. Can Angle be the one to end EC3's undefeated streak, or will EC3 leave tonight as the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion? We got this and a lot more to talk about. The shock of the world still on everybody's tongue is Jeff Jarrett and Global Force Wrestling. What does this mean for TNA? And I got some thoughts and opinions about that, and I'll share that at the end of the show. But let's get right to it right now. Okay, we had our first match of the night. The Beatdown Clan, the BDC, taking on the Rising. The Beatdown Clan, MVP, Kenny King, Loki, and their newest member, Hernandez, taking on Drew Galloway, Eli Drake, and Micah of the Rising. Stipulations is this is an elimination tag match. It's supposed to be a 6-man tag match, but turns out all 4 members of the BDC will participate. So it's a handicap match, a 3-on-4 handicap match. It's elimination style, and the losers have to disband their group. So we start out the match. Drew Galloway, MVP in. Drew Galloway starts getting control early in the match. He winds up tagging back in MVP into the corner. He tags in Loki, I believe, and then Micah's in. But Micah gets caught by the numbers, and they work on him in the corner. Loki and King dominates him, and they're able to take out Micah, and they're now down 2-4. Okay, Eli Drake comes in. He starts working, and he's got some control of the match. He goes, he tags Drew Galloway in. Drew comes in, and then he starts wrestling, and there's some nice chops going back and forth between Drew Galloway and I believe Loki. But Galloway is able to tag in Drake. Drake comes back in. He goes to town. He goes for a over the top rope move to the floor, and he kind of miscalculates. He injures his ankle, and he's declared medically he's unable to continue. So now it's 4-on-1. Drew Galloway is all on his own. He's getting double teamed by Kenny King and Low-Ki. Low-Ki goes for a drop kick. Galloway drops, and King gets nailed with a drop kick. This allows Drew Galloway, first he takes out Low-Ki. 1, 2, 3, Low-Ki's eliminated. Then he pins Kenny King, takes out Kenny King. Now it's just Hernandez and MVP. However, the numbers catch up to Drew Galloway. He gets hit with a border toss from Hernandez, followed by the playmaker, and the drive-by by MVP. Sayonara. Drew Galloway, you lose. The Horizon are disbanded. But before that, he was able to. Drew Galloway was able to take out Low-Ki with a nice shoulder block to the steel steps. This was done to write Low-Ki out because Low-Ki is no longer with TNA. He asked for his release. The story goes that he was dissatisfied that TNA chose to put the TNA X Division title on Tiger Uno. So this was the way to write out Low-Ki. But nevertheless, the Beatdown Clan stays together. The Horizon are gone. So what does this mean for Eli, Drake, and Micah? Well, they can become a tag team, go into the tag team division, because the tag team division is like thin. And I'm going to talk more about that later in the show. But it's super thin, and they need tag team, so it wouldn't be a bad idea for them. Drew Galloway, where does he go? Anyway, he could be thrown. He could be thrown into the TNA World Heavyweight title picture. That's where he could go. But where does the Beatdown Clan go from here? Now that they dominated and ended the threat of the Horizon, where did they go? That is the big question. We'll have to just wait and see what's going to happen with them. It wasn't a bad match at all. It was a good way to kick off Impact Wrestling. So you have to check it out. I wouldn't say it was the best match of the night, but it was a good match nevertheless. Okay, we had Magnus come down the ring to talk about his feud with the Cowboy, James Storm. And he called him a despicable son of a bitch, and basically said that he did have to thank you because you've proven that the spirit of a man when his family is in danger, is in jeopardy, is strongest ever. And that he's made himself and Mickey stronger. Mickey James then comes out to a huge cheers from the crowd. Mickey tells the crowd, thank you for your encouragement, your kind thoughts and comments, and calls James Storm a cowardly slime bucket. And as she's talking, he interrupts her and she says, yeah, bring your cowardly ass out here. Well, James Storm comes out with Koya standing by his side. Nobody else in the Revolution comes out with Storm. Storm basically says, Mickey, you ought to be thankful I didn't push you harder and confined you in a wheelchair. What would have been like to miss out on your picking your son up because you're confined to a wheelchair? And just starts egging her. He's like, and then he claims that he really didn't want Mickey to join the Revolution. He just wanted to prove how easy it was to manipulate a woman. And goes on to say he could have any woman in the Revolution that he wants. Mickey's had enough of it and calls him out and tells him, says, you know what, thank you, because you fired him up and you promised these fans one more match from me, and by God, we're going to get it. You find that one woman and you come and face us next week. So it sounds like we're going to have a mixed tag team match. Mickey James is going to tag up with Magnus against the Cowboy James Storm and a female wrestler of his choosing. That's going to be interesting to see. To the best of my knowledge, and I have to do some research, but to the best of my knowledge, this will be the first time that a real life couple have tagged together in a match. To the best of my knowledge, it's never happened in the WWE. And to the best of my knowledge, it's never happened in WCW. It may have happened in ECW, but in WWE and WCW, I don't believe so. So And if I'm wrong, some people correct me in the comments, okay? Not perfect, but just, you know. But nevertheless, good segment. I thought Mickie did very good. She got her emotions crossed. The fans were right into it. And she made a comment that you brought out the crazy Mickie James. So crazy Mickie James is back. And we all love crazy Mickie James. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. It's not really spoilers. It's been out there and it couldn't be avoided. This show and probably the next couple of weeks were taped before Slammiversary, and it was announced that Magnus and James Storm have both left TNA. James Storm it's not been said what James Storm's doing, but it has been official. Magnus has signed with Global Force Wrestling. So what does that mean for TNA? And such. Mickie James, it's not confirmed what she's doing now that Magnus has left her. She's also has left TNA. She was not under a contract. She was just making appearances. But where does this leave Mickie James at? Is that a possibility she's going to go to Global Force Wrestling? Their TV tapings are going to be crowning 4 new champions. Could we see Mickie James go to Global Force Wrestling and become the very first Global Force Wrestling's Women's Champion? We're assuming they're going to have a Women's Championship. And if that's the case, Mickie James will cement her legacy and claim as the greatest women's wrestler of all time. Okay, but getting back to TNA Impact Wrestling, next week should be a firecracker. Mickie James and Magnus taking on the Cowboy James Storm and female wrestler of his choosing. Going to be fun. Okay, it was the final match in the Best of 5 series to determine the new TNA Tag Team Champions, the Dirty Hills, the greatest man that ever lived, Austin Aries, and the it factor of professional wrestling, Bobby Roode, taking on Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, the Wolves, in a 30-minute Iron Man match. Okay. This match was just so spectacular. I had to read notes. I had to have notes because it was just so phenomenal, and I want to make sure that I got the key moves in. This was 30 minutes match, back and forth control. I can tell you that the first pinfall didn't happen until 25 minutes into the match. So it was counter for counter for counter for 25 minutes. It was first. It was starting out the match was Davey Richards and Austin Aries. And Aries goes for quick pin tips, of course, but Richards would roll through, and this would go back and forth. I think that some of the nice things was the Wolves were able to work on Austin Aries with some nice double team combination moves. Aries at one point early in the match tried to go for a brain buster, but Edwards was able to counter it into a suplex, and it was just good forth back tagging and such. The Wolves were dominating. Richards hit a nice snap suplex on Roode, but in able time, Roode was able to capitalize on a momentary lapse from Edwards and was able to drive Edwards into Aries' boots. They went dirty heels. Aries raked Edwards' eyes before connecting with the net breaker. Dirty Heels started isolating Eddie Edwards, and they worked on him for quite a while. But the tide turned when Edwards was able to hit a nice double hurricanrana on both Roode and Aries, and was able to get the tag into to Richards. Richard comes in and he goes to town, nailing a double drop kick on both Roode and Aries. It was it was just freaking awesome. Richards even executed a flying headbutt from the top of the ropes onto Aries, went for a pinfall but couldn't get the 3 count. Wolves extend the ropes, but they get stopped by the Dirty Heels. They get crashing to the mat, and Roode tosses Richards from the ring, and then he distracts Edwards while Aries connects with the double axe handle for the top rope. He rolls Richards in, and we get another close pinfall. Roode positions had Richards on his shoulders. Aries connected with the missile drop kick and went to make cover, but Edwards breaks up the count. Richards counters a slingshot into Aries with the double stomp to the gut of Roode and gets a tag in. Roode tries to break it, but Richards breaks free. He gets to tag in Eddie Edwards. Edwards ducks a clothesline, and then he connects with suicide dive on Aries, which was a very nice move. And then he executes, he goes to town chopping Aries with chops to the chest. And then Roode comes in. They try for a double suplex, but Richards comes in and blocks it, and the Wolves work together, and they almost score a pinfall on Roode, but Roode's able to kick out. They toss. Dirty Heels make a comeback, and Roode's able to press Edwards to the mat with a front face suplex, and then Aries locks in the last chancery. Almost gets a submission until Richards is able to get in and break it. The Wolves toss Roode from the ring. They climb to separate turnbuckles, unleash the Howls. Roode is able to prevent a count because they did the double stomp on Aries. Roode comes in. He's able to interrupt. The Wolves are posed for a second onslaught. Richard gets pulled from the ring. Aries connects with a 450 splash on to Edwards, and we get our first pinfall 25 minutes into the match. And that's when the Dirty Heels go into defense mode. Roode and Aries try for another pin, but then they decide to go to defense mode and keep them locked in. But however, at the 2-minute mark, Aries drives Edwards into the corner and connects with the series of rights. But the Wolves are able to come back, hit the force of nature. Eddie Edwards scores a pinfall. It's 1-1. It's tied. So now the pressure's on. We're at the 1-minute mark. Roode nails Edwards with the title belt. He makes a pin attempt, but Edwards manages to kick out. Roode positions Edwards for the Roode bomb, but Edwards rolls through with a schoolboy and scores the second fall. Now the Wolves are 2-1 up. We're less than a minute away. Roode furiously locks in the crossface on Edwards, but unfortunately the clock runs out on Bobby Roode. It's over. It's done. Your new TNA Tag Team Champions, the Wolves. Frustrating for the Dirty Heels. They came this close to tying it back up to force the match into overtime, but unfortunately the clock ran out on them. Awesome match. I mean, match of the night. How many times can you say match of the night and it be the Wolves and the Dirty Heels? But it is. These guys are four of the greatest wrestlers in the business. The Wolves, probably the greatest tag team wrestling today. And I know I'm going to get an argument about that because there's, you could say that you can make a case that the Usos are in the contention for that title. You can make the case for the Addiction, Christopher Daniels and Franklin and Kazarian. You can make the argument for them. But the Hardys is another one. But I mean, you cannot deny that the Wolves have proven to be one of the best tag teams in the business today. And I think them and the Dirty Heels, they've put on one hell of a match. Kudos to them. If you miss this match, then shame on you. Shame on you for missing this match. One of the greatest matches. I said last week, Full Metal Mayhem, match of the year. I don't know. The 30-minute Iron Man match might blow that one out of the water. That's how damn good it was. So if you missed it, go and watch it because it was freaking awesome. Okay? Get off your ass and watch it. I'm telling you, you will not regret it because this is pure wrestling at its best. I'm telling you. Match of the night, bar none. End of story. Okay, it's our second title match of the night, and it is for the TNA Knockouts Championship. Terrell defending the TNA Knockouts title against Awesome Kong and my girl, Brooke, aka Brooke Tezmacher. All right, what a match. Okay, Brooke and Kong start working together. They go after Taryn. And Brooke and Taryn are rolling and fighting on the mat with Kong trying to stomp. Don't know if she was trying to stomp Taryn or Brooke, or she didn't care. But they work together. Kong nails a splash on Taryn, followed by Brooke hitting a face buster on Taryn. Then they turn their attention on each other. Brooke tries to go to town on Kong, but Kong comes back and choke slams Brooke. This allows Taryn to come in and hits a missile drop kick, sending Kong out of the ring. And now Taryn goes to town on Brooke, repeatedly driving her face into the mat and into the ring post. However, she gloats and forgets about Awesome Kong. Awesome Kong comes back in and nails a choke slam on her. She's getting ready. Kong's getting ready to come off the ropes with a splash, but she gets tripped by Jade and Marty Bell, who take Kong out of the equation and take her to the outside of the ring. However, this gives a chance for Brooke to get back in the mix, and she opens up a flurry of offense, nailing a nice spear on Taryn. However, she goes for a top rope move. Jade and Marty interfere again and prevent her from taking Brooke out of the equation. Kong gets back in and comes in with some offense. She's about to nail a move off the ropes. However, she gets stopped by Marty and Jade. This allows Taryn to hit the Taryn cutter. 1, 2, 3. Terrell retains the TNA Knockouts Championship. However, after the match, justice is coming for you, Terry. And we find out the meaning of these justice is coming, playtime is over messages. It's Gail Kim making it clear she's coming after Terrell. This match was okay, was good. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was good. Solid knockouts action and such. Terrell is embracing this heel role, and she's doing a pretty good job with it. Can my girl Brooke get another title shot at that Knockouts title? Don't know. Will Awesome Kong get another title shot? And where does Gail Kim now fit into the mix of things? We'll find out in the coming weeks, but it should be interesting to see. But for now, Terrell is still the TNA Knockouts Champion, and she is still the longest reigning TNA Knockouts Champion. Okay, we had the first part of an exclusive interview that Mike Tenay, the Professor Mike Tenay, did with the new TNA King of the Mountain champion, King of the Mountain himself, Jeff Jarrett, the owner of Global Force Wrestling, and his wife, Karen Jarrett. Jeff talks about, well, at first Tenay makes the comment about hell has frozen over again, and refers to the date last week where Jeff Jarrett made his shocking return to TNA Impact Wrestling. Jeff talks about it being surreal, and it even being more surreal at Slammiversary, winning the King of the Mountain match and becoming the very first King of the Mountain champion. He goes briefly into talking about how Global Force Wrestling and some of Global Force Wrestling talking about its, their Grand Slam tour, how it's affecting the company, and he says stay tuned because there's going to be there's a shocking future for both Global Force Wrestling and TNA Impact Wrestling. What does that mean? Here's what my thoughts are. Okay, Jeff Jarrett is probably a smart businessman, been in the wrestling business all of his life. He's someone who learns from his mistakes, and I think with Global Force Wrestling, he knows that WWE is dominating the market, and he knows that in order to survive, you've got to work together. It's going to be like the old days in the 70s and early 80s, where there was the territories, and they all okay, we'll send our guys over here for for some dates, and then you send your guys here, and that's how things work. And I think that's what Jeff Jarrett is visualizing, but more on a global level because of national TV. You got international TV deals, so it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen between Global Force Wrestling and TNA. But I'll talk more about it at the end of the show. But I can't wait to hear more from Jeff Jarrett. What's going to be with this championship? Is it going to be defended on a regular basis? Is it just a one-year defense? What is the deal with the King of the Mountain Championship? What does it mean? And I can't wait to find more about that out. I guess next week will be part 2 of the interview, and it'll be interesting to see what the King of the Mountain himself and the owner of Global Force Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett, has to say. Okay, we had our main event. Ethan Carter III, EC3, finally getting his title shot against Kurt Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And what a match. Both men threw it all out there. Kurt Angle was phenomenal. Suplex City, bitch. You might have heard that from Brock Lesnar, but Kurt Angle was on a Suplex City bitch mode. He German suplex EC3 throughout the match at least 10 times in the match, and at least 4 to 5 belly-to-belly suplexes, 3 angle slams, and at least 2 angle locks. But EC3 was able to persevere through all this. EC3 was able to get a nice back body drop on Angle, including a nice DDT, but was never able to get the pinfall. With the referee, he was able to counter the Angle slam a couple times. Tyrus got involved in the match, taking down Angle when Angle was hitting a trifecta of German suplexes. As a matter of fact, was going for the 5th German suplex. And that gave EC3 a chance to come back. EC3 did hit the 1%er, but Angle kicked out of it to the shock of everybody. EC3 went for another 1%er, but Angle was able to counter it. Went for an Angle slam, but EC3 rolled through it. Another roll through. Angle gets the Angle lock on EC3 finally. EC3 looks like he's on the verge of tapping, but he makes it to the rope. Tyrus tries to interfere again by bringing a chair, but he's ejected from ringside. So there is no Tyrus now to help EC3. EC3 fights through the pain, is able to roll through, goes through another roll-up, able to roll up Angle. 1, 2, 3, your new TNA World Heavyweight Champion and still undefeated, Ethan Carter III, EC3. Okay, I think we all knew that EC3 was going to win the title, but I tell you what, it was a great match. I think they both did a great job, and kudos to TNA, because at any time with this character, they could have put the title on him, but they built it up. They built it up. This was over a year in the making. EC3 did not get a title handed to him right off the bat when he came in. He earned it. He worked for it, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with EC3 now that he is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Who is going to challenge him for the title? Will it be the It Factor, Bobby Roode? What about Drew Galloway? We know Kurt Angle's going to want another title shot. What about the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley? The world-class maniac, Eric Young? What about former TNA champion Jeff Hardy? Or what about Matt Hardy, who's never been a world heavyweight champion? I know he was ECW champion, but let's get honest. Does the WWE version of the ECW title really count? So, there's a lot of things. We got MVP. Let's don't forget about MVP, Drew Galloway. There's some contenders there for that title, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's a good match. Unfortunately, it wasn't the match of the night, but it was still a good match. You have to check it out. But anyway, EC3 is the new World Heavyweight Champion, and now it's the age of Carter. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen next week now that EC3 is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Okay, once again, the superstars of the week, the Dirty Heels, the greatest man that ever lived, Austin Aries, and the It Factor of professional wrestling, Bobby Roode, and the Wolves, Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards. They're the superstars of the week. I'm sorry, they had the match of the night, 30-minute Iron Man match. I thought Full Metal Mayhem couldn't have been topped from last week, but then they blow it out of the water with this. I'm telling you, these guys are ruling it. They're kicking ass and they're taking names. So the superstars of the week, once again, the Dirty Heels and the Wolves. Okay, let's talk tag teams. What's going to happen now that the Wolves are the new TNA Tag Team Champions? Who are going to challenge them for the titles? Here's the situation. Dirty Heels, no more. Austin Aries' contract expired. There was not a renewal. I don't know if he chose not to resign or they didn't offer him a new contract. Whatever the deal, Austin Aries is no longer with TNA. Yes, he'll be on a few more of the TV tapings, but as it stands right now, Dirty Heels are no more. So, with that being said, who is going to challenge the Wolves for those tag team titles? Jeff Hardy's still out with the injury, so the Hardys can't challenge for it. The Bromans are no more. You could hook up Mandrews and Rockstar Spud, and they could go for the tag titles. You've got the Beatdown Clan, which combination? Hernandez and King and King and MVP and Hernandez. Which combination could go for the tag titles out of that group? Could Eli Drake and Micah team up together and go after the tag team titles? Will it be someone from, will the Revolution even exist because James Storms is gone? I think this is a traumatic time for TNA, and if something doesn't change soon, we could be seeing the end of TNA, because they've lost, in my mind, they lost three great stars and a potential star in Gunner. Gunner had a lot of potential, and they just let him go and slip through their fingers, and that was their choice, not his choice. Okay, but James Storm and Magnus are gone. They've asked for their releases. They were granted. They're gone. Two of the biggest stars, and they're gone. And now Magnus is signed under his real name in Global Force Wrestling. James Storm's a free agent. Who knows where James Storm is going to wind up? So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are rocking TNA right now, and it's got to be a scary time for him. Now, since we're talking about it, Global Force Wrestling. What is up with Global Force Wrestling and TNA? What is going on? Okay, I've already talked about it, and I'll talk about it again. I feel like Jeff Jarrett, probably one of the smartest men in wrestling, grew up in it. He knows from things. We got to work together. We got to team together if we're going to be able to compete with the WWE. And I think Jeff Jarrett has the right mindset. I think he learns from mistakes, and he knows what to do. And I think one of the things is Jeff Jarrett knows what the fans want. He knows how to put together a show. He knows how to book it. He knows how to make things good. I've been to the very first TNA house show I ever went to. Matter of fact, this is where I got this shirt from, was for my very first TNA house show. Jeff Jarrett totally booked that show, and it was a phenomenal show. And at the end of the night, and before I was leaving, Jeff Jarrett was signing autographs, and I got my 8x10 signed by Jeff, and he looked at me and said, "Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy yourself?" And that, to me, is like mind-blowing, that, you know, Jeff Jarrett, who's a legend in the wrestling business, whether you like him or not, multi-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, United States champion, former WWE Tag Team Champion, former Intercontinental Champion, multi-time champions across the region, multi-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, King of the Mountain. I mean, what more can you say about Jeff Jarrett's career? And for him to ask a wrestling fan like myself, did I have a good time, means something. It meant something to me. So I'm about wrestling. I'm passionate about wrestling. I'm probably too passionate about it. My wife will probably tell you I eat, pardon my French, my wife would tell you I eat, shit, and breathe wrestling. That's what she would say. And it's true, because I'm passionate about it. I enjoy it. I love it. And I am passionate about it. And it just burns me when people bitch and just dark-hearted, you know, are hell-bent on seeing a company, you know, demise and fold. You know, I don't want to see any wrestling company go out of business. The more is better. The more is better. Variety is better. Okay? It's an interesting time. We have the WWE, which people bitch about that. They bitch about Raw. They bitch about SmackDown. While they have their development territory, NXT, which is killing it, and it's kicking ass and taking names. The overall product of the past 6 months for TNA has gotten better. Now Ring of Honor is available, is on a nationwide platform. You have Lucha Underground, which has probably got it has some damn good action. I've seen some of Lucha Underground, and it's damn good. But there's a variety of wrestling, so you wishing for the demise of TNA, to me, it's mind-boggling. It's stupid. Whether you like TNA or not, wishing for the demise of a company, of any wrestling company, is stupid in my opinion. Okay? But Global Force Wrestling, I find this very, very interesting. And I honestly, if I had had the money and had the means to pull it off, I would have just said, "Hey, boss, I'm taking off for the weekend. Go and see my family up in Tennessee," and I would have went to that second house show for Global Force Wrestling in Knoxville. I would have went, and of course, you know, and I saw the pictures. It was, you know, he put on a pretty damn good show, and I would have loved to. I've met him once, but I would have loved to have done it again. Meet the famous, infamous, probably one of the greatest managers in wrestling history, James E. Cornette, Jim Cornette. But, you know, for me, the thing I like about house shows is you get to see the action live. But the TNA house shows, you got the better fan experience. If you're a regular watcher of Making Impact, you've heard me say this over and over again, so I know I sound like a broken record. But it's so true, and it's so sad that there has not been one house show throughout this year, and it's sad that there were hardly any house shows last year. I was fortunate enough to get to go and see one of the few house shows they did last year, and that was in Dothan, Alabama. And let me tell you something, I had a great time at that house show. my niece got to sit ringside. This was the first time she's ever sat ringside. I'm talking front row ringside. Matter of fact, the entranceway was here. Her seat was right there at the corner. She was slapping hands coming and going. She was tickled pink to death. I think she was disappointed because her favorite wrestler, Jeff Hardy, wasn't on the card, but she had a great time. She got to meet the majority of the superstars. I bet everybody, because I paid to see. I did the Austin Aries thing. I bought the action figure to get autographed, and I got to meet Austin Aries, the greatest man that ever lived. You know, on that card we met EC3. Cool guy, stays in character though. I will say that, stays in character, which is awesome. Chris Sabin. We're talking Chris Sabin. We're talking Gail Kim, Gunner, Eric Young. This was before his heel turn, of course. Eric Young, Magnus, Bully Ray, Samoa Joe, the Cowboy James Storm. It was such a fun Madison Rain. I met everybody on the card. It was just freaking awesome. And it's so sad that TNA is no longer doing these house shows, and it's just like, it's sad. So, you know, I really would love to see a Global Force Wrestling show. From what I've heard, the fan experience is pretty damn close, if not better than what TNA's is, and I would love to see that. But nevertheless, what is this going on with Global Force Wrestling and TNA? Truly, now it's been announced that Bobby Roode is going to be at the Global Force TV tapings, the very first set of TV tapings, and Bobby Roode is still signed to TNA. Okay, I heard people talking on my Facebook page about, oh, Bobby Roode's now gone for TNA. No, he is not gone. He is still under contract with TNA. He is just going to be at those house shows. And what would it mean if Bobby Roode was to become the Global Force Wrestling Heavyweight Champion? What would that do? A TNA star is the Global Force Wrestling Champion. It's mind-boggling. This is insane. It's got people talking. What in the hell is going on? And it's great. This is a great time to be a wrestling fan. I am telling you that right now. Okay. So, next week, it's been announced on TNA's, on Impact Wrestling's website that Jesse Gonzer and Robbie E will go one-on-one in a street fight match. It seems they came to blows behind the scenes. We know this past week, and TNA officials have decided that they will have this street fight match. Hopefully, settle this between the two. So that's going to be interesting. Also, EC3, of course, is going to address his triumphant win, becoming the TNA World Heavyweight Champion this upcoming Wednesday. And it's also the return of Dixie Carter. I don't know how I feel about this. As long as she keeps herself limited and doesn't become a regular fixture, I'll be okay with it. But we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. Excuse me, interesting time. It's really an interesting time to be a wrestling fan. That much I can tell you. Okay, it's plug time. Okay, the wrestling debate. It's on every Tuesday on Blog Talk Radio. It's brought to you by the Nerdport Network. Join myself, my partner in crime, John J.P. Mayer, Sean the Shark Williams, the Dirty Diva herself, Michelle, Andrew B., and Jaime Statboy, and a lot of others. Just join us. We talk about everything: WWE, TNA, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, PWS, and of course now Global Force Wrestling. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of talk about this Tuesday. Also on Wednesdays, it's usually Wednesdays, but you can check the Nerdport Network's Facebook page for the exact dates and times. It's an independent point of view. My good buddy John P. Mayer has his finger on the pulse of independent wrestling, especially up in the Jersey, New York area, especially with PWS, Pro Wrestling Syndicate. He gets some great interviews with independent wrestlers and promoters. You've got to check it out at Independent Point of View. It's on Blog Talk Radio, and it's brought to you by the Nerdport Network. You can get the exact times and dates on the Nerdport Network's Facebook page. On Thursdays, it's Dirty Divas with the Dirty Divas themselves, Michelle and Liz. They talk about everything in wrestling, and they give a lady's point of view about it. You can check them out every Thursday. You can get the exact times off of the Nerdport Network's Facebook page, but that's the Dirty Divas on Thursday. All right, well, I will be back next week with another edition of Making an Impact. Should be interesting. Guys, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. As you know, we did a special Slammiversary preview podcast. I want to thank Andrew B for joining me. We had great fun doing that. I think Andrew B beat me on that one. I didn't do too bad. Only 2 matches wrong, so I didn't do too bad. But it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. Is TNA going to have another pay-per-view, or was that their final pay-per-view? That's the million-dollar question, because I'm kind of a little concerned that there may not be a Bound for Glory this year. If Slammiversary is the only pay-per-view they do this year, that's not good in my opinion. But it's going to be interesting to see. So we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. But again, guys, thank you for joining us. I've been your host, Simply Sensational Billy James. Also, shout out, happy 4th of July. Everybody stay safe. And for July the 5th, happy Huey Lewis Day. And in case you're wondering what that means, is one of the greatest 80s bands, Huey Lewis and News, frontman Huey Lewis, his birthday is this Sunday. He is 65 years old, still rocking strong. And that's the heart of rock and roll right there. I'm talking about Huey Lewis. Okay, guys, I've been your host, Simply Sensational Billy James. Y'all stay classy out there.